what the city is talking about. This is Montreal Now on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
Mr. Trump, with a dream that doesn't make sense in having Canada as the 51st state, doesn't make sense. It won't happen. Yes, we're open for discussion, but looks like he's not open. So I hope markets and people of the business community in the United States will explain him that he's not going the right way in the next weeks and months.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd be counting my chickens exactly, waiting for that to happen. James Mennie, the Montreal Gazette's on the line. That's Francois Legault from earlier this afternoon. His reaction, there was a press conference held to discuss what Quebec might be doing and what it might be doing, by the way, to help businesses who are already starting to feel the effects and, how are we going to help them? We're going to make money available for investing, etc. James Mennie's on the line. Jim, let's start with what you heard from Francois Legault. I'm not sure there was a lot there specifically, but then again, what could we have expected?
I think everybody today did their job, whether it's Trudeau, whether it's Doug Ford, whether it's Francois Legault. The idea is we are here. We're going to look after you. Everybody just take a deep breath. This too shall pass. And I'm very sorry, Aaron, but with all due respect, I think he's 1,000% right. I think when I'm looking at, I don't know about you, but I've been watching the markets all day. They have been red all day. They're not red. I'm looking at the Dow, S&P. They're not red for Democrats or leftists or people who don't agree with Donald Trump. They're red for everybody. In other words, when Donald Trump goes in to address the joint session of Congress tonight, he's going to be talking to a Congress which was substantially poorer that night than it was this morning. And the only way things are going to go is down. Our tariffs have not even begun to make themselves felt. And I really think that in the end, you are going to see cracks appear. But I think in the short term, I think the real thing we have to watch for tonight is what the Democrats do, if anything, with this particular ongoing crisis created by Trump, whether they'll be able to subvert. Because we know there'll be praise for the great leader. We know there will be applause at every single thing he says from the Republican side. But it'll be interesting to see how the Democrats play this, whether they talk to the entire nation, the same way that nationalists like Francois Legault and diehard federalists like Justin Trudeau have been talking to the entirety of Canada, saying this is a group effort. This is about all of us. And it'll be very, very interesting as well to see whether the passion that I've seen unleashed in the past week continues to burn as brightly, over time. I don't know about your experience. I know a lot of people, and I've said this on the show before. I always make a point of sort of befriending, socializing with people who aren't in my line of work, who don't share the same interests. In other words, I know a lot of people who don't give a damn about politics, okay? And all they have been talking to me about for the past week is politics. They are furious, Aaron. They just know the essentials. They know that Trump is trying to screw us around. They're not happy with it. I'm hearing that everywhere. And I'm thinking to a certain extent, we've got some lightning in the bottle here. And I really think that people understand what's going on. If you're looking at your stock portfolio today, you might be angry and frightened at the same time. But the fact is, you know what? We went through this during the pandemic, and I'm convinced, maybe I'm being naive, but I'm convinced that Donald Trump does not enjoy the kind of Hitler-like support that namesake enjoyed, 80 years ago. I think that Donald Trump is on increasingly thin ice. He's surrounded himself with billionaires whose idea in life is to get more money, not less. And right now, despite all the rhetoric, despite all the spouting off, he's not really doing anything other than driving markets into the ground and really alienating the U.S. at a business level, either as a business partner, as a market, or as a supplier.
I will point out with respect to the markets, the Dow closed down 670 points today, so that's about 1.5%. It was actually a bit more yesterday, so that's 3% in the course of 2 days. That's very, very substantial.
And when I was tracking it today, it was quite something because every single sort of note on it was falling fast because the markets are looking at this, Aaron. I'm sorry. Let's say the quiet part out loud. Most people realize Donald Trump is a flaming lunatic, okay? And he's in charge of something he should not be in charge of. And the question now is, how do we limit the damage he's doing to us? And when I say this, I'm not talking about Canadians. I'm talking about anyone who is within the sphere of his influence. And that's why I think tonight is very, very important. I think if tonight certainly Trump will disguise it as his triumph. Here I am, look at me, I'm imposing my agenda on the world, when in fact, quite the reverse is true. He is going to be waking up an America that for far too long has been absolutely complacent, confident of its role in the world and how essential it is. In the past 2 weeks, we have seen people who don't usually talk to each other, who haven't spoken to each other for years, whether it's in Canada or in Europe or indeed in Asia, all the other markets, diversifying, turning around, saying, maybe imagine a world without the U.S. And a lot of people are taking that very seriously. And I think until Donald Trump shuts up, that is going to be the main topic of conversation for every level of government in this country.
By the way, with reference to what you just mentioned, Donald Trump tonight addressing a joint session of Congress, right? So that's at 9 o'clock this evening.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you get much in the way. I think you're probably right. It'll be him patting himself on the back. There's a potential here for Democrats to stand up and walk out en masse. It'll be a show. It's always a show when he's doing something, but that is tonight, if you want to stay up and check that out. Jim, maybe it's not fair to ask the question. I'm trying to understand, though, with respect to what Justin Trudeau announced today, those $30 billion, that first level of retaliatory tariffs, and then Trump tweeted that if Canada goes through with that, then he will increase the already increased tariffs of 25% on top of what we already got?
In other words, I will bully you and I'll do so with impunity. If you decide to push back, I'm going to bully you even more. Mm-hmm. He doesn't quite get it because we've already said we will reply in kind. We'll take this as far as you like. We have a certain amount. We have a certain level that we can reach given the size of our economy. But the fact of the matter is, this is happening in real time. Donald Trump is surrounded by sycophants who think that everything, he's convinced everything he's doing is perfect. You and I and our listeners and much of the world are seeing that this is not working at all. The only thing that is being boosted here is Donald Trump's ego and the economy, certainly of the U.S. and North America, and all the spin-off effects of that are being felt in real time. I don't see how this can be sustained. I don't see how even the smiling entourage of Donald Trump can turn around and go home at night and say, oh, good, markets are down, again by 3%. I don't see that as being sustainable, and I don't see how Donald Trump can maintain this bubble. He'd love to stay there, but I don't see how he'll be allowed to maintain that given the damage, the really genuine, demonstrable damage he is doing to the economy right here and right now.
So I would ask the other question, can we finally now get over this whole fentanyl stuff, which they're still trying to peddle in the U.S.? And I heard the Prime Minister, and good for him, for basically calling them out on this, saying this is not about fentanyl. It never was, which kind of begs the question that you posed, Jim, about, hey, maybe we get our $1 billion back and get rid of those helicopters we bought to appease him.
Well, thank God the helicopter was a lease, okay, so which I think is kind of cool. I didn't know you could lease a Blackhawk helicopter. But, let's cancel the lease on the Blackhawk. And forgive me, I've forgotten the Mountie's name, who was appointed our fentanyl czar.
Kevin Brosseau, right?
Yeah, well, have him surrender his sword and his fuzzy hat, and he can't be the czar anymore. We won't have it. And just tell Donald Trump to go plunk straight to hell with his little fantasy of fentanyl, and say we're not going to play this game anymore. And if you want to have a trade war, let's have a trade war. But honestly, I wasn't alive during World War II. But in the entirety of my life, I have never seen the country this galvanized, this emotional. Even in the days I remember, back in '67, the national pride. This is nothing like that. People are angry, but they're also resolute, and I'm seeing that in the comments. I'm seeing that in just the way people are handling this. Like, we know this is not going to be a cakewalk, but on the other hand, do you really want to cave to the likes of Donald Trump? And I think there is a consensus in this country, a large consensus, of people saying, no, we're not going to do this. And I think Donald Trump is going to have a few surprises of his own over the course of this month. As I say, I don't think it can be sustained, Aaron, honestly. I don't know exactly how it's going to manifest itself, but I know your guest from the Federation of Chambre de Commerce in Quebec was talking about months. I would be surprised if this lasts weeks.
Wow. Okay. Well, I guess we're all about to find out. I'm going to play some of. Did you catch Trudeau's statement, by the way, earlier in the day, Jim?
Yes, I did. It was quite something. And a friend of mine said, it's remarkable. Did you hear him? He sounded great. And I said, it's his last week on the job. Yeah. He has zero damns to give, so he'll say whatever he wants to say, which I think accounts for a lot of the candor in that speech.
Yeah, I agree. And I think as well, it's funny because if you think about it, there's going to be a new leader, new prime minister on Sunday. Yeah. Well, on Monday, basically. They're going to decide Sunday who that is. So, yeah, this is his last kick of the can. So if that's what it took to bring out all these references, I think it's great. It's about time someone said it. I mean, you can say it here on the radio, but to have the prime minister call out Donald Trump that way, I think a lot of Canadians might have been waiting for that.
And I think not just in Canada, I think a lot of people are really waking up to how big a threat this guy is to everything that people presume was going to work. And once again, I think that shows the fault in the system. I think all of us presumed way too much reliance on the U.S., its system of government, and especially its economy. And we have been shown, and I think it's a lesson we should keep with this, how absolutely fragile that is. How, okay, if Donald Trump was to disappear tomorrow, who knows? Will Vance be any better? Will he be worse? And once Vance is gone, who's next? What if they elected an even bigger nutball? It's possible. We never thought Trump was possible. They reelected the guy, Aaron. They knew what they were getting into. So right now, I think the entire attitude of this planet towards the U.S. has fundamentally changed.
To that point, Jim, and I'll let it go, this idea that the people elected him knew exactly what they were going to get. I'm starting to wonder whether that's the case. And anyone, even if you supported him, if you weren't a diehard, but you just supported him and you thought this was going to happen.
How could you, honestly, Aaron, how could you not think that? The guy has double-crossed he has not double-crossed anybody he's dealt with in the entirety of his career. He has lied every single day he's been in office and as a businessman. How can you look at this guy and say, yeah, you know what? He's going to bring down the price of eggs. Think about that for a sec. He's going to that's why I voted for him. He's going to bring down he said he's going to bring down the price of eggs.
It's going to bring down the price of everything, right? Things are going to get less expensive to buy. Okay. James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.